don't know. Facebook, actually, I didn't realize that like the Facebook Lives automatically saved. So I didn't realize that things were showing up more than once before. So that's special. Anyway, hi guys, everybody. Happy, what is this, Monday now? Monday? I don't know. Yeah, I didn't know that. So I record twice, apparently. It is what it is. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't go live last Monday. I was a little bit of a grumpy pants after my marathon debacle. So I was still kind of collecting my ego on Monday. So instead I put out a really good video on salt and why we should stop being afraid of it. So I hopefully you guys did watch that and understand and recognize how important it is that we actually get salt in our diets. Today I wanted to talk about just priming your body for fat loss. I know that like 'tis the season, right? We're walking into summer and we're all probably thinking about all the shorts and possible bikinis that might be coming our way or whatever, bathing suit season. It got me thinking that like, oh no, this is the time that people start doing their crash dieting stuff. And that, the crash dieting thing, it is what it is for what it is, but it's not sustainable. And we know that's not healthy. And I would never ever support that. So I was thinking, well, what sort of information do people need if they really want to do like a long-term sustainable permanent fat loss? So that's what I want to talk to you about tonight, like the things that you need to do to prime yourself for permanent fat loss. So it's not necessarily what you're going to do if you enter a diet, but it's what you should be doing before you enter some sort of like fat loss phase, if that's something that you're looking for, so that you're actually getting the results that you want. Because I know that a lot of us has been through it where we jump into a diet or we try to do something extreme and we're not seeing the results that we want. And it's frustrating because you think you're doing all the right things and you're not seeing the movement. So today I want to talk about all the things that you should be thinking about before you walk into like a fat loss phase. Again, if I'm looking over to the side, it's because I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing comments on Facebook, but there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. Okay, so there's kind of 4 different parts of things that you should be aware of before you kind of enter into an intentional diet. And I know like we want to just wake up and then go on a diet and wow, we've got this beautiful, bikini worthy body or whatever. And it doesn't really work that way. There's a lot of prep that needs to go into not only your body, but your mind before you can walk into like a sustainable, long-term, healthy fat loss phase in your kind of your seasons of life. And that's another thing that I want to mention is about how our weight is very seasonal and not necessarily by the seasons of, fall, winter, and all that fun jazz. But in terms of, are we in a fat loss phase, or are we in a maintenance phase, or are we in like a build phase? These are all different seasons that our bodies go through, and it is not possible for you to be in a permanent diet or weight loss phase. So if that's something that you've been trying to attempt for, I don't know, decades like I was, recognize that that's not actually possible for our body to do, and that turns into metabolic adaptation, which is why permanent weight loss phase is not really a thing. So the 4 things that I want to talk about today, let's see, I have them over here. Okay, so first of all, it's about what you're putting in your mouth and not necessarily, I know you're like, yeah, of course, like diet and exercise, right? But it's not, again, we're not talking about the diet phase. We're talking about priming your body so that it's ready to release fat. And so the first thing is, are you eating enough? Right? If you are somebody who has been yo-yo dieting or somebody who has been under eating for a long amount of time, your body won't give up the fat. Unless you want to do something crazy like crash diet and do one of those, 500 calorie a day type diets, which are not sustainable and not fun and make everybody miserable. If you're already going into this under eating, you will not see the results you want to see. So the first thing that you're going to need to do to prime yourself to really get to a point where you can do long-term sustainable fat loss is up your calories, which I know that this seems counterintuitive. And I know that if you're somebody who's been battling your weight for so long, that's probably a terrifying concept. But if you're not consistently getting your daily maintenance calories, then your body will be very, very stubborn in releasing any fat because it doesn't feel like it has any to release. So that's the first thing, is just get your calories up and get them up with whole, hearty foods. So if you're, for example, like I'm going to throw out 1,200 calories just because that kind of is like the number that people think that they're supposed to be on when they're going into a diet. But if you've been consistently under consuming, like I would not go under 1,500. If you're not consistently consuming like 18 to 2000. If you're not consistently maintaining your maintenance or consuming your maintenance calories, your body is not going to be primed for fat loss. So step one is to figure out what your maintenance level would be, right? And there's a video on macros that goes through that process. If you want to know what your maintenance will be, it's not a perfect science. There's a lot of play that you have to do to figure out what your maintenance calories are, but it's a great starting point. And so finding your TDEE is what it's called, total daily expenditure, energy expenditure. Figure out what that is. And if you're not consistently getting that a day, then work your way up to it. It's right now, it's kind of the thing, it's called a reverse diet, but I don't want to call it a reverse diet. That's not what it is. What we're trying to do is we're trying to improve your metabolism through good food choices. So figure out your maintenance calories, and then slowly start working your way back up to your maintenance calories so that your body finally feels like it's in a safe place. Like I said, if you're under consuming, it won't release. It won't release any of that fat. So you go into this diet phase and your body's like, I'm not ready. I'm not going to do it for you. And it's really, really frustrating. If you are somebody who's been under consuming for a long time, getting back up to maintenance, you can take that as quickly or as slow as you want. If you take it fast, like if you're one who's been under consuming and then you just jump up to maintenance in one fell swoop, you're probably going to see a lot of weight gain, which is exactly the opposite of what we want to do. So you don't want to go, if you've been under consuming by a lot for a while, you don't want to go from where you've been to where you're supposed to be in one fell swoop, unless it's a little bit. So my recommendation is start increasing your daily calories by about 200 calories. It's 200 to 500, depending on how below your maintenance you've been. And then give your body time to adjust. Our bodies are adaptive by nature, but that does take time, right? That's the one thing I'm gonna say is and we'll talk about some psychological factors here in just a minute, but you have to prime your mind to understand that it's not gonna be quick, but it's worth it. Let me tell you, if you can get yourself sustainable fat loss where you don't have to worry about it anymore, you don't feel like you ever have to go on a diet ever again, there's so much freedom once you get to the other side. So that's what I do. If you're under consuming, get yourself back up to maintenance by increasing your calorie intake from like 200 to 500 calories. 500 is probably on the big end every single day. And then you'll like week one, you'll increase them by 200 a day, and then you'll see how you feel after a week. Okay, if you're still feeling like maybe that's too much food, maybe give yourself another week. But you have to give your time to adapt to that, and then you'll increase them again by another 200. Give yourself a week to adjust, maybe 2 if your body is starting to feel a little bit heavy, and then do it again. Keep doing that until you're at maintenance, right? You have to be in a good place for your body to feel safe enough to let go of any of that fat. I know it seems counterintuitive, but trust me, we are trying to build a metabolism, and when you get that metabolism roaring, your fat just like, phew. When it's ready to, when you're ready to go into like a diet fat loss phase of your life, it will go with ease if it's feeling comfortable. So priming it to be comfortable is really where we're at. So that's the first one. Are you eating enough? The second one is as kind of like your physical, like your physical environment. Oh, stop. Sorry, I've got a dog over here upset with the other dog because she's sleeping in his spot. So the food is one, making sure you're eating enough. A lot of us are not eating enough in order for our bodies to actually feel safe. And then the second one is kind of the physical, I don't want to say environment, but like the physical part of priming our bodies. And that's in the form of exercise and sleep and recovery. So one thing, so you can be on either kind of two ends of the spectrum when it comes to exercise. You can be under exercising or not exercising at all, or you can be over exercising, right? And if you're on either end of those spectrums, your body's not in a good place to start releasing fat. And I know, again, that maybe sounds a little bit counterintuitive when you're like, oh, I don't know, I exercise every single day. You know what? So did I, and I was 220 pounds. You have to give your body time to recover from that. Over exercising is very, very damaging to our metabolisms. So if you are one who's on the one X spectrum where you're over exercising, try to take it down a notch. If you're doing like high intensity, you know, like hit every single day, 5 days a week, and you're doing, on top of that, you're doing some strength training, and on top of that, you've got kind of like a high stress life, all of these stressors add onto each other, and it's called allostatic load, okay? And if we're not controlling those factors, then our body starts, it releases a lot of cortisol. Cortisol is catabolic. It breaks up our muscle and it starts a fat storage process because it wants us to be safe, and fat for our bodies is safe. Okay, so if you're over exercising and you're really trying to go into like a cut, you have to reel it in a little bit. Right? If a lot of people exercise because there's a lot of joy in there, and there's a lot of benefits to it. But you can exercise so much that you're now putting your body in too much stress, and it won't release any fat. So if your goal is to set yourself up for fat loss, then maybe reeling in some of that is a good idea. On the opposite end, if you're completely sedentary, if you don't do a lot of movement, start priming your body again to get moving. And it doesn't have to be something that's programmed, right? Like, I'm not saying you need to hit the gym 5 days a week, or, you need to be on this regimen where you're doing, whatever, you're doing leg day on Tuesdays, and you're doing, upper body on Wednesdays, and you're doing full body on Thursday. I'm not saying, if you're not getting a whole lot of movement in, it's as simple as taking yourself on walks. Like, get your steps up. Get yourself to about 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. Just get moving a little bit. Take yourself on a leisurely walk after dinner, or take your dog on a walk, or do something low impact so it's not high stress on your body, but you're starting to build this like muscle communication. Again, what we're trying to do is prime your body for weight loss later. So you're trying to start building some of these better habits so you can start implementing those when you go into like a diet phase. So if you're not doing a whole lot of movement now, work some in, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Low stress movement, yoga, some walks. I was laughing today because I was thinking you could even like just grab a couple of cans of soup and just do a couple little like bicep curls while you're making dinner. It doesn't have to be crazy. Just start adding in this like non-exercise activity so that you're getting natural movements to get your body moving to help get that metabolism going. Okay, just the act of moving your body helps improve your metabolism. Okay, so that's the physical side. The other part of the physical thing is sleep. I know that we all know diet and exercise is really, really important, especially leading into like a diet phase of your life. Sleep is so unbelievably important when it comes to fat loss. If you're underslept, is that I don't know, is that a word? Does anybody know? If you're underslept, your body will have a very, very difficult time releasing fat loss. So what's going on? When we're sleeping, a lot of the connections in the neurotransmitters are solidifying, okay? And what we know that hormones are what regulate our hunger cues and our full cues, right? Well, behind the scenes, behind our hormones, the thing regulating our hormones, those are neurotransmitters, and those require sleep to function properly. So when we're underslept, again, I don't know if that's a word. I think so. It sounds right. I don't know. And if we don't get enough sleep, what happens is we start getting out of whack hormonally. We get cravings. We get cravings for things that are high in sugar because we get fatigued and we need more sugar for more energy. Our cortisol levels go through the roof. And like I said, cortisol levels are catabolic, and it creates a lot of problems with muscle growth, and and supports fat storage. Lack of sleep. There's been a lot of studies that have come out that point to, if you can get as little as 1 extra hour of sleep every single night, the impact of that is more, the impact of that is more impactful than an exercise regimen. It's more important for you to get enough rest than it is for you to cut your rest early to get in like an hour of exercise in the morning, for example, right? It's very, very clear that our bodies cannot make progress without proper rest and recovery. So sleep that's one of the ones that I kind of wanted to hit hard tonight, because a lot of us don't get a lot of it, right? It's so easy to get sleep deprived. We are busy. And then at the end of the night, we just want to relax and we turn on the TV or whatever. And we spend too much time on the TV and we're getting up early. And then, you know, if you're somebody who does have an exercise regimen in the morning, you get up early and go do that. We're just underslept. So make sure that you're getting enough sleep, because that in and of itself will help your body. Again, we're trying to get it to a safe state so that when you're ready to lose the fat, it's ready to do it too. Okay. And then there's the psychological component. So this is things like stress management and getting your mind ready for going into a fat loss phase. So what does that mean? When you're trying to go into a fat loss phase, inevitably you are going to have to make some sort of sacrifices, right? You're going to have to change some of the things that you're doing in terms of like food and exercise to make changes in your body. Okay. And that means that you really need to go into it with an understanding of like, here are the things that I'm willing to sacrifice. And here are the things that are my non-negotiables, and make a list, sit down and write it down so that you can see, like there's a physical list, like these are the things that I'm willing to give up when I'm trying to lose some fat. And these are the things that I'm not, absolutely not. So that when you come across things that are not on the non-negotiable list, you have already prepared to say no to that, right? So the other thing is with recognizing what you're going to sacrifice, you need to set up a plan on how you're going to navigate that if it so happens to turn up. For example, let's say that when you try to enter a fat loss phase, you are willing to give up pizza, okay? So that's on your sacrifice list. I'm going to give up pizza. Personally, I would not, because I really like pizza. I just found a way to modify pizza so that I could still eat it. But that's one way that you could then navigate that situation. So if you're giving up pizza, right? And I don't know, you go over to a friend's house and you're going to go have dinner with them and they have ordered pizza, you need to have a plan in place already to figure out how you're going to navigate a situation like that. Are you going to eat it anyway, right? Which is kind of defeating the purpose of having a list of sacrifices. Are you going to prepare something yourself and bring it to share, but make sure that you have something that you can eat? Are you going to identify what about the pizza you don't necessarily think is going to help support your goals and then try to eat around that? Like you have a plan in place, right? Like a lot of us just kind of thrust ourselves into a diet phase with no plan at all. And then we're put into these situations where it's like, I don't actually know what I'm supposed to be doing, or I'm in a social event and I want whatever's happening there, but I'm on this diet and I don't know how to navigate that. Put up a plan. Like diets, man, if you want to lose some fat, put a plan together so that you're ready for those types of situations. So have your list of sacrifices, the things you're willing to give up, and then have your non-negotiables, things that you're not willing to give up, right? Like pizza, for example. Maybe that is something that you're not willing to give up. Okay, if you're not willing to give up pizza, that's totally fine. Make a plan around that, right? How often can you have it, or when can you have it? Or, you know, like if Friday night pizza family night is a thing for you, then enjoy that, and then create a menu surrounding that would then support, you know, having pizza night and still going towards your fat loss goals. So that's a psychological thing. It's like psychologically setting yourself up for the things that you're going to sacrifice and the things that you're not. For example, when I got a personal trainer when I was in college for the first time, and I remember our original intake, and he asked me, are there anything, oh no, he didn't ask me. He was asking me about the things that I liked and the things that I'd be willing to give up. And I distinctly remember saying, you can't take coffee away. Like that was my non-negotiable. You can't take coffee. And at the time it was mochas. I was hitting the mochas pretty hard, let me tell you. And he just laughed at me and he said, okay, that's fine. We will have to work around your mochas. And that for me, just by saying, this is my non-negotiable and we need to work around it, relieved so much of the anxiety around going into this personal trainer and trying to, you know, implement some of the changes that he was going to recommend, because he already knew a boundary for me and he was already willing to respect that boundary. So do that with yourself, right? Like, these are my non-negotiables and this is how I'm going to navigate that. And these are the things I'm willing to sacrifice, and this is how I'm going to navigate that, and prep yourself for that too. And then the fourth component. So we had, what are we eating? Are we eating enough? So making sure that you're at least at maintenance for a while before you try to go into a fat loss phase, because you have to make your body feel safe. Your physical, so your sleep, your non-exercise activity, and your intentional exercise. So making sure there's a balance there. The psychological, which is figuring out what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not, and how you're going to navigate those situations. And then the last one is social. Okay? There's so much benefit to having a social structure, a support system set up to support your fat loss goals before you walk into a fat loss phase. And this can be a little bit uncomfortable, but this is the things like sitting down with your significant other and letting them know, hey, this is what's happening. You might see some changes around what's in the food cabinets, for example. This is why, and I would appreciate it if you supported me. It's very clear that when you have, yeah, Victoria says, I'm over here nodding like, amen, sister. It is important to communicate your goals with the people who share the environment with you, okay? And the people that you're going to want to, like the people that you spend a lot of time with. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be on board with what you're about to do. Like they don't have to do the same things that you want to do, but that needs to be discussed beforehand. For example, if you've decided that you're sacrificing ice cream for your fat loss phase of your life, and it's a phase, for example, so you don't necessarily have to sacrifice ice cream forever. It's a beautiful thing about building your metabolisms, but we'll get to that here in just a minute. But if you decide you're going to this fat loss phase and you're giving up ice cream, and you sit down and you talk to your significant other and they're not wanting to give up ice cream, then figure out how they can still have access to it, but you don't, right? If it's going to be an issue, then you need to make a plan together. They need to be on board. This is not necessarily just a you thing, especially if you have a family who shares the same space with you. Okay, so get yourself a support system and communicate with them your goals and how they can be supportive in those goals. It's also having a friend on board, you know, like, hey, I'm going to need you to be my accountability person. So like when I'm stressed out and I want to reach for the Snickers, I'm going to call you instead, or whatever. Hey, it's unbelievably helpful to have somebody around that you can be open and honest with about this journey. Okay, so you don't do it alone. So definitely prep yourself. Again, this is when you're trying to just prime your mind and body to go into a fat loss phase. Make sure you're eating enough going into it. If you're already under eating, you're already failing your fat loss phase. So don't do that. Okay. Make sure that you've got your physical movement and sleep down, and that doesn't mean that you have to employ a new regimen. That's, again, we're just priming our bodies, right? So you don't necessarily have to be on a programmed exercise regimen right now. That's not the point. It just means assess your exercise. If you're not exercising at all, just get some steps in. If you're exercising too much, reel it in. Okay, we have to start regulating our stress. Get the sleep. Okay, we've got to get the sleep in. If we're not sleeping, our hormones are all over the place. It creates a huge problem. We get more cravings. It's going to be very, very difficult to go through a fat loss phase if you're under sleeping, right? So prime your body by getting into a good sleep regimen. Then your psychological, make sure you know what you're going to give up and what you're not going to give up and how you're going to navigate those situations. And then I think I kind of talked about it a little bit, but stress management too. And when we talk about stress management, this is not like eliminating all stressors in your life, because that doesn't make sense. We live in a stressful world. Okay, so when you're trying to prime your body to be safe so that it's willing to give up the fat when you go into your diet phase, a huge part of that is your stress management. And that's not eliminating, it's how you respond to stressors, right? So it's not like it's finding ways to, because when we get stressed out, our cortisol levels go through the roof. That's our stress response, right? And it's going through the roof to give us a lot of energy so that we can deal with what that stressor is. The problem is that a lot of our stressors now are psychological in nature. They're not physical in nature. And so your body is giving you ways to respond in a very physical way when it's your mind that has a lot of, that when it's like a mental stressor, so you don't necessarily have an outlet for that. So some stress management techniques are things like just going for walks, okay, or getting up and doing some jumping jacks just to move your body, okay, or breathing exercises, right? Meditation, yoga, anything that can help us calm down and combat those cortisol levels. So it's not eliminating stress, but it's figuring out a way that you can respond to stress so that you can relax your body, because that, if you're chronically stressed and you're not dealing with that, then if you move into a diet phase, again, nothing will happen. Your body's gonna be like, so sorry, I'm too stressed out. I will not give up fat. Fat is my safe place and you're not making me safe. So stress management techniques are really important too. And then of course, the last one is the social support system. So please communicate what your goals are to the people around you who might want to go on this journey with you too. You know, you never know. And if they don't, that's okay, but at least communicate what those goals are so that you can figure out how you're going to navigate that together, and have a support system so that you have someone that you can go to. And once you have those kind of things down where you're eating enough, your body's in a safe space, you're pretty good at stress management, right? Then you can start moving into a diet phase, and you'll be amazed at what happens when you walk into a diet phase with a body that's primed for it. You'll see the results, and it's pretty cool. It's really kind of an amazing feeling when your body responds in a way that you want it to, as opposed to trying to fight it to get down to, as with these crash diets that we keep doing, which only make things worse. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? And make sure I don't see any questions over here on Facebook. Yeah, hopefully that was at least helpful. Again, this was not necessarily about the diet itself, how to do the fat loss, but it is about how to prime your body to lose the fat if that's something that you are looking for. So, all right, guys. Yeah, if you have any questions or anything, if you need any follow-up, please let me know. I'm always more than happy to answer your questions. I'm going to go dive into this amazing lasagna that I made, which I will probably end up posting this week because it's so freaking good. You guys have an amazing Monday evening, and I will see you next time. All right, until next time, eat more, eat well, eat happy. Bye.